Okay. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Essie Reed, and I am a young adult author, and I have a joy today of presenting a meeting with some literary agents. I'm a volunteer at the Writers Workout, and so I'll be letting them do most of the talking, but I'll be asking some questions, and we'll go around the group and hear their wonderful answers. So we'll start off with some introductions, and I'll just call first Vicky. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Vicky Weber. I am an author myself and a literary agent over at Creative Media Agency. I'm also a mom of two. I've got a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old that keep me quite busy. And what I typically look for, besides great stories is great authors. So I'm really excited to be here talking and helping you all get to that point.
Awesome. Thank you, Vicky. Cathie, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Cathie Hedrick-Armstrong, and I'm with Marshall Lyon Literary Agency. Like Vicky, I was an author first before I ended up being an agent. I have been married for 32 years. I know I don't look nearly that old. and I have two grown children and a son-in-law. My son is 20 and my daughter is 29, and her husband. And just like Vicky, I look for not just great writing, I look for really great authors. I have a really wonderful team of clients that are all really close, almost like a family in their own way. And I always look for authors that can contribute to that group and not disrupt the balance.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cathie. Christine, you want to go next?
I'm Christine Goss. I'm with FinePrint Literary, and I'm sorry, I'm a little sick, so my voice is a little froggy. I am also a author, and that makes it all the more important for me as an agent to hopefully help during this process of querying for authors, because I understand what it was like. You don't know what you don't know until you know it. And so I'm hoping to be as helpful as possible.
Great. Thank you. Nice to meet you. And last but not least, Jenna.
Hello. I'm so excited to be chatting with all of you guys. And my name is Jenna Satterthwaite. I'm with Storm Literary Agency. I'm a baby agent. I just want to put that out there. I started in January, so I'm not yet to my year marker, but I also started on the author side. Like all of y'all, there's a little trend here. I write thrillers, and my debut came out this year, so it's been really fun. I guess finding kind of those intersections of how being an author can put me in a position to be more helpful to my authors, because like Christine pointed out, querying is brutal. Being on submission is brutal. Like there's so many brutal stages that don't necessarily end after the book deal. And so becoming acquainted with those stages myself, I know is equipping me to kind of walk with my authors through those. And then since y'all mentioned kids, I am also a mom of 3 adorable munchkins. Not so much munchkins. I have a 12-year-old daughter and then a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they also keep me very busy in the best ways.
Aw, that's so great. Thank you so much. And again, thank you all for being here today. I'm so excited. All of the viewers and all of the fans of Writers Workout are so excited to learn more directly from the mouth of the agent. As a writer, it can be a little scary when you're, especially when you're just starting off. And so that's what the first question is for the authors that are just starting off. So, okay, I wrote a book. So what's this whole querying thing? When is this the right time? I just hit the end and now I'm ready. Right? Am I ready to start sending this manuscript out to you?
I'm looking at everyone's expressions like, ooh.
Jenna, your expression was large there. Do you want to go first?
It was because 10 years ago when I wrote my first novel, a dystopian young adult, which I hear dystopia may come back, but crossing my fingers. I was like convinced I was a genius. I don't know about all y'all, but there was no humility when I wrote the end. I was like, I'm 31. I wrote this book on actually that was my second try, but I was like, it's so good. It's gonna sell in a flash. Like, I mean, it sounds dramatic to say, but there is, I think, a legitimate, and really not to be too much made fun of, rush when you accomplish something as big as finishing a book. So I'm laughing a little because it's me, but it's, I think, on one side, a very merited feeling of you did something incredible that most people don't do. A lot of people think they want to write a book or might start writing a book or might say like it's on their bucket list, but to actually get through, let's just say like 90,000 words or 100,000 words and type the end is a major accomplishment. There's a deserved rush, but you cannot act on that rush. Please trust me as someone who has been there. Celebrate, pop your champagne, but don't dive into the query trenches yet, because even though you might be extremely good, very few people are geniuses. Very few people can write a book and have it be chef's kiss perfect on their first try. Everyone, I think, who's been writing for slightly longer amounts of time knows magic happens in revisions. And so taking a minute, pressing pause, stepping back, again, celebrating, but I think not rushing in is super important, because you will just get rejected, because I'm 99% sure your novel isn't ready. And that's no shade on you. That's everyone. That's me now, 10 years into writing with my current drafts. They're not ready after draft 1. They're just not. So I think finding, critique partners and beta readers who aren't your relatives and who have written books themselves, who know what's going on with story, with arc, to kind of take a look at what you've done and lend their voice and say, hey, this is great, but I was confused here. Or, I really like this character, but I was, I don't feel like they changed. Those can be really eye-opening, helpful critiques from people who are also in the writing world that help you fine-tune what you've done and take it to the next level. That was a long answer. I'll try not to answer so long next time, but I was
going to say, I mean, I agree with all of that, but I would also add that when you're looking for critique partners, this can be tricky, but you want to find the people who, they're not just going to be your cheerleaders, but they're also going to give you feedback that is actionable, because there is a difference between critique and criticism or, something like that. And this process is already daunting for most writers. It's long, there's going to be a lot of roller coaster up and down moments. And so the last thing you need is, an unsupportive, group of people telling you that your writing isn't where it needs to be. Because if you can find those people, you'll be excited about doing the work and those edits and discovering more about your characters and fixing plot holes. The things are going to start clicking into place, and it's going to be energizing rather than defeating. And so, yeah, go find those people who write in a similar genre, similar age group to you, and then be that person back for them. One of the easiest ways to do that, in my opinion, is to ask questions. Instead of saying, I feel like this could be better by blah, 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 blah. Ask, what if? Why?
Mm-hmm.
How come? Because if the author doesn't know the answer, they can start to discover the answer, and that can lead to some really cool conversations.
So I want to jump in here too, because I agree with everything that Jenna, and of course everything Vicky said, because Vicky is like my so much from Vicky. I've been doing this a lot longer than Vicky has, but I cannot tell you how much I learned from Vicky. So everything is spot on. I would kind of this is my process when I tell my clients to do, which is kind of goes along with them. You finish your manuscript, you set it aside, because I'm going to say that I felt like a genius when I wrote my first manuscript, and I think everybody does. I mean, you'd have a hard time telling me I wasn't a genius. I just sat down and wrote that whole thing, and it all came out of my head. So, like Jenna, I was so excited. I literally probably 24 hours later started querying, and that, oh my gosh.
I love it. I mean, so did I.
Horrified.
So did I.
I'm horrified at the things that I'm really grateful that I had a couple of agents that gave me actionable response. This isn't ready or whatever, and would tell me why it wasn't ready. I also queried small publishers who were kind enough to say, oh boy, you sure don't know the difference between showing and telling, do you? And then would actually show me how to do these things, which is really kind of rare. So I think I just found unicorns. Not that there aren't more of us out there that try to do that, but at the time it was more, nope, 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 nope. So what do you need to do before you finish your manuscript? What do you need to do first thing? Set it aside for, a day or a week or whatever, just enough time to give yourself some space from it. Then come back and read it with fresh eyes. And now you're going to be looking for areas that you can make things better. Look for showing versus telling, look for your crutch words, look for all those things that you can edit and bring it to the very best place that you can bring it. Once you've done that, you're going to look for critique partners. And like Vicky and Jenna said, your critique partners are going to be someone who probably writes in the same genre that you do, or at least is actually a writer themselves. I always like to say you want to find somebody who is the yin to your yang. You want someone, if you are really good at developmental stuff, you want somebody that maybe is really good at line edits and vice versa. I'm terrible at developmental, but if you give me line edits, I can go to town all day. And so I need a good developmental critique partner. And take their critique for what it's worth. They're going to try and tell you, they're going to give you some suggestions, hopefully that they're actionable. Ask yourself, is what they're saying, does it make sense? Have they explained it to me in a way that makes sense? Gosh, maybe I do need to make this change. And make sure that it doesn't violate your vision. I mean, once in a while, it might make some sense, but it violates your vision. So just make sure that, those two things are in line. And if they are, make those changes. And then you'll go back and forth a couple times. And then I do like beta readers, and I like to delineate between critique partners and beta readers. Beta readers for me, your critique partners are seasoned writers. They know what they're doing. Beta readers are seasoned readers, and they're reading in the genre that whatever you're writing is their favorite genre. So they're going to look through it, and they're going to find things that you won't even realize as a reader. This doesn't make sense. I got bored at this point, this kind of thing. And you're going to ask them for that kind of feedback. And I always give them a Google form to fill out and ask specific questions. Was there any place that you got bored? Was there any place that was confusing? Is there any place you wanted more? Those kinds of questions. Let them send it back to you anonymously, because sometimes those are your friends versus your critique partners. So your friends are less likely to give you honest critique because they don't want to hurt your feelings. So, and then once you've gone back and forth several times, then you're ready to query. But one more thing on that, there's if your critique partner is just coming back and saying, this is perfect, this is wonderful, you don't need to do anything else, you are brilliant, you are actually a genius. You don't have a critique partner, you have a fan. And we all love fans, but they're not helpful for us when we're trying to get better. And that's what we want to do. And that's what the whole point of having a critique partner is to get better.
I guess I don't really have much more to add. I think everyone has been pretty thorough, but I guess I just want to throw out some resources because I'm not sure, what is available through this, but make community through conferences and workshops. You can also do Bianca's beta reader matchup to find beta readers. I think it's a low fee of $20 to $25, and it matches you with 4 people. You can also listen to, am I allowed to swear? Because it's part of the name of the podcast.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah.
Listen to the Shit No One Tells You About Writing podcast. They do query critiques every other week now. So you can listen to how agents are critiquing queries, and you can understand kind of like what they're looking for, especially in the opening pages and the query packages. And then Cathie has a wonderful self-editing sheet, which I highly recommend going through. That will help you identify crutch words and make sure you're formatting everything properly. So that's more of, I think, the late stage of editing, but you don't really realize all the different stages, and there are a lot. So be sure to educate yourself. There are so many amazing resources out there. Jane Friedman is also another great resource. So if you look up, there's a lot out there. It's just figuring out where it is. So
awesome. Thank you guys so much. That was great. So the next question that I have, I think Christine, you sort of just touched on it, was talking about with the query letter. So now we are ready. Our manuscript has gone through all of these amazing stages with critique partners and beta readers and self-editing and everything else. And so now I just wrote a query letter. I'm ready to send it to one of you. Are there things that I should avoid in the query letter? I mean, should I tell you that, you know, my dog is named Mabel and she's my best friend in the whole world? Or should I just talk about my book? Like, what should I do? Christine, do you want to start with that since your last answer you didn't get as much?
I mean, I don't know if there's anything to avoid, I guess, like avoid not knowing your genre's word count. You know, it's more so, I think when I see queries that come in that I can tell the author is not ready, is when they don't, there's a formula, and I think some people get frustrated, but there is, and it also helps me kind of like, my eye catches on where things should be. So that's why I kind of promote the formula. Book or hook, book, cook. So your first paragraph will be the hook, include comps, include your word count, hook me in, and then tell me the book. And in the book, there are questions you should answer. And Cathie, I know you know these off the top of your head. I know a few. Who is your main character? What do they want? What stands in their way? What will they do to get what they want? What happens if they do not get it? So that really helps me understand the stakes, the potential character arc, and then the cook, which is the author. And tell me your dog's name is Mabel, because I love dogs, but I don't need a huge long summary, like just a very short, brief paragraph. If you are working on something else, I always love seeing, and I'm working on my next novel. If you have bylines that you've been written somewhere else, I love knowing that. But other than that, I don't need something that's significantly long, because it really shouldn't be too long. I should be able to get through it relatively quickly.
I'm going to pop in next because there are, I love you're just the best, Christine. Sorry, I love these two ladies so much, and I'm getting to know Jenna, and I'm going to love Jenna too. So, I do have a couple things that I drive me bonkers in these letters. The first one is, you want to get straight to what your book is before you start telling me all about how it's going to be it's the best thing ever written. It's going to be a bestseller. It's going to hit, movies are going to want to pick it up. You know, my best friend's boyfriend's father's great uncle's dad said, you know, honestly, I don't care. I mean, that sounds really rude and all that kind of thing, but it doesn't tell me anything about the book. And if you'd like to include that, please do, but do it at the bottom. But at the top, I want to be able to see what is your word count, what is the genre. I want the 5 parts that Christine went over. And then you can put that other stuff in there. Because honestly, if you think about it, you know, and I was learning how to write resume letters, I was told make them short because their eyes they stop reading as you go down to the bottom of it. And that's pretty true across the board for anything you do. So I'm going to be reading from the top down. And at some point, if there's too much, I'm going to go, oh, yeah. So that's one of the things I would really recommend, is that you really get to the point. You know, that's what I recommend. The other thing is, two things. Bios that go on forever. You know, Christine talked about that. It's, you know, I don't mind hearing about that you got a cat, or a dog, but I don't need to know that your dog learned how to go fetch something and take it downstairs to your husband, which my dog did today. It's a whole nother story. But, you know, just whatever is relevant to what you've written. So, you know, maybe if your cat's not relevant to what you've written, maybe a 1 word about your cat is fine instead of 3 sentences. And then finally, I get a lot of authors that say this is the first in a 3-book series. And while it might be your intention to make it the first in a 3-book series, I think that sometimes scares agents off, because the implication is that you're expecting us to be able to sell those 3 books, and you won't be happy unless they are all 3 sold together. And I can't guarantee what an editor is going to take on. So if I know, after I'll sign you for the specific book that you've given me. And if I know that you can go somewhere further with this, I will absolutely let the editor know that, this is a standalone title with series potential. The author has considered where she or he might go with the rest of it. That's perfect. But I would never be pitching to an editor, probably one that says this is a 3-book deal or this 3-book, series, and they have to go together, because that just wouldn't happen. And so just start with this as a standalone with series potential.
Hard same. I really don't have much to add. You guys have covered it all, except that I see a lot of that. I've written 3 books, this is one of a 5-book series, and the stakes are high. I'm asking myself right away, how long has this writer spent on these 5 books? 10 years, 3-4 years.
Right.
It's rare to sell a series that long, more rare than not, I would say. So I see failure already for myself.
Yeah.
Like when I contemplate that, I'm like, oh no, the stakes are extra high because of all the investment. So I think, yeah, having kind of that awareness of how the industry works when you're querying, and that your agent, if they're lucky, will be able to sell 1 book, and then we'll see. And you kind of have to demonstrate that I think it's helpful if you demonstrate you have that awareness already. So maybe you say, I've written a 5-book series, but I understand that we're going to focus on the first one. That would already scare me less, because you're telling me, we might see more eye to eye getting started.
Yeah, I think that's anxiety inducing when I get, it's like, it puts me on the spot feeling like, if I don't sell all 3, I'm going to fail. Or if I don't sell all 5, I'm going to fail. So I guess and I'm sorry, and I'm going to shut up in a second and Vicky can talk. But if I were to give any piece of advice to an author who is thinking about doing a 3 or 5 or whatever book series, my recommendation would be to write the first one, outline the next 2 or 3 books, but don't actually start writing them. Because 2 things happen. Number one, you might not ever sell those other 2 or 3 books, and you can be writing something else in the meantime, first of all. But second of all, let's say you do have an editor that comes back for you and they do want a 2 or 3 book series. But you might find that there's a lot of changes that go in that first book. So you've already written your second book, and now you're having to rewrite it because there are changes that went into that first book that you hadn't anticipated making changes. So instead of writing that second or third or fourth book or whatever, make an outline so you know where it's going to go, and then leave that open to writing later. It'd be my recommendation. And I'll shut up now, Vicky.
No. I absolutely agree with all of that. I think the biggest thing that I see is, on the extreme level, I don't know about you ladies. I know Cathie sees this a lot too. Just a lot of the cockiness
Yes.
of this is the best thing, and you're not going to regret it because this is going to be the next Harry Potter. Meanwhile it's like an adult thriller or something like that has nothing to do with middle grade fantasy, YA, anything. So there's a lot of that, or there's a lot of I see a lot of lack of effort. I get a decent amount of query letters that come in that are 3 to 5 sentences long, and that's it. And I walk away from that wondering, okay, if you don't put the effort here, how much effort are you going to put in if I sell it? And an editor is then working with you. How much effort are you going to put into marketing it? How much effort are you going to put into revisions? And so those are questions that pop in my head when I see, that. I would rather see a query letter that isn't perfect, but I can tell the author put effort in, because that's important. And then the other thing I would say is a lot of authors mistake high stakes for just big events happening. The world ends, the things explode, everybody dies. That doesn't mean anything to us if we don't care about the characters. And so the stakes don't feel high unless we have that emotional connection with the characters. Because otherwise it's okay, great, why do I care? And then you put it beside all of these other queries. I get hundreds of queries every month, hundreds. And so it does start to, blur together, and you want to stand out. So give us more about who is that character, what is happening to them, what's at stake for them, then what's at stake for their world or their way of life or whatever it might be. So really dig into those things, because if you don't know what or why, then you might need to go back to your critique partners and do a little bit more work on the manuscript itself.
If I can add one more thing to Vicky's comment about the lack of effort, it's not strictly related, but it is adjacent. And I just want to add this. Make sure before you query your agent that you know how your agent prefers to receive queries. For example, I have literally on every platform you will ever find me, I will have it written at least one time, please do not send me queries by email. I specifically say how to send queries, and invariably I get probably 5 a week. And that tells me they didn't do their research. They didn't care enough to do their research, and it's an automatic delete. I don't even read it. I just hit delete on my inbox, and that sounds like it's really being mean on my part. But again, it goes back to what Vicky is saying is, do I want to work with somebody who doesn't follow the simplest instructions and any effort towards trying to do things well? So.
Awesome. So I'll make sure I follow the rules for sure the next time I try and query. No.
I'm a rule follower myself.
Perfect. No, that was
add on a
Okay,
positive
yeah.
note, you know, because I also see the lack of effort and the series that scares me. But, you know, on a positive note, it's not hard to impress us. Like, I don't remember which, maybe it was Christine saying this. Like, if you just do kind of the normal query letter where you like introduce your book and give a summary that reads a little bit like a book jacket, even if you're struggling a little bit, ends a little on a cliffhanger with the stakes, it does not have to be perfect. It's not rocket science. So I would hate for anyone to come away after listening to this like, oh my gosh, if I mess up on the rules, they're gonna shut me down. If I do this, they're gonna shut me down. These are kind of I think the things that we see a lot that are turnoffs. But I would say there's also like a huge amount of queries where everyone is doing everything right, and it's fantastic, and keep it up. And you know, we're not looking, well, I can't say we're not looking for reasons to reject, because we are filtering as we go through, you know, that accept, reject judgment is happening constantly as we digest. But, you know, we're not, I guess, dragons sitting on like our hoard of queries. I don't know. We're not.
Our hoard of queries. I love that. Well, to kind of go with that,
For yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
I really, Vicky, she's really hard. No, I'm kidding. I will say that unless I get that 2 or 3 sentence one that just shows no effort whatsoever, a lot of times I will kind of skim through the query letter. I mean, I'll read it, but if I'm not getting what I want from it, I'll go straight to the pages that I request and look for the writing. So there've been a lot of clients, probably about half of my clients I've taken on probably didn't write the best query letters, but they were enough to show that they'd put in some effort, even if it wasn't quite what I was looking for. They were showing some effort. So I just skipped down to their pages, and that's where they pulled me in.
Hard, same. And I have to say, like, I didn't even remember that was the case with some clients, you know, that we were ready to kind of go on submission with their books to editors. And I always go back to the query letter as my starting point. Like, okay, I'm going to write a pitch. Let's see how they pitched it. And I'll kind of use those ingredients. And I remember one of them, I was like, oh, wow, this is not the best pitch. But I remember the pages. I remember starting the page and being like, whoa, this is different. This is exciting. And assigning this author. And then, you know, going on and just completely rewriting the pitch, and we sold it. And it's, you know, not announced yet, so I can't say anything else, but it's very exciting. And so just a reminder that, like, you don't have to write a freaking stellar pitch to get an agent and sell your book. We want to see,
just
like,
need to know what it's about.
It's about a little bit of effort. And then if your writing shines, that's what we're signing you on. We're not signing you on your sales ability and your pitching ability, because in the end, that's our job towards editors. Not that it's a bad thing to like try to be good at. Like, if you have that skill, awesome, and you should try to develop it. But, you know, it's not a make or break. I like love to remind people, you know, the query letter is not the hill you'll die on if your pages are fire. As long as you don't do something really reprehensible in the query and like creepy.
Not the pile that Jenna's dragon is sitting on.
I did actually once have, well, actually, I've had it multiple times. Authors like say something really rude or condescending in the query letter, like just read the pages with some swear words and things like that. And so, as long as you're not doing that, yeah, because at the end of the day, it's a partnership between us and the author. And so we want to find people that we really enjoy working with. And so that's your chance to show that off. I mean, some of my authors, for their little bit about themselves, one of them called themselves a gremlin. Like, like, I'm pretty sure I was a gremlin in a past life. And I was like, what? But I loved the pages. I knew what the book was about. I was pulled in. And so don't be afraid to be yourself. Like, be yourself.
100%.
Well, that's awesome. And that leads, so now that you've sorted through your queries, your hoard of queries, and you've pulled out, the hatchable eggs, and you're ready to go, how soon after you sign with your agent do you send a book on sub? Like, tell me what that looks like for you. Does it go out like next week and I'm going to get a phone call that I have a book deal, or is it going to take a year? Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Oh, go, Vic.
I mean, so it's so hard to tell because it depends on what shape the manuscript is in right now. And it depends on how quickly the author can work, because let's face it, a lot of agents are working another full-time job, and then a lot of authors have their full-time job and their family. And so, how fast or slow the author works is going to vary from book to book, and how much work it actually needs. I had what I aim to do before I make an offer is have a submission package ready. Even if it's not 100% there, it's like 80-90% there, so that I know, okay, this is editors that might like it, or here's where it fits in my list in the market. So I try to have those things prepped in advance, but I'm going to have to go and retouch it anyway, because it might take 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or longer, depending on the manuscript itself. Yeah, I had one author, we thought for sure she would have it done in 2 months, and she worked her butt off, but we ended up realizing that there were some things we hadn't considered, and so she wanted it to be the best it could be, and I was grateful for that. So it actually ended up taking like 4 months before we got it on submission. And then after that one round of submissions, we ended up going back and making more revisions to it for round 2. So it's an ebb and flow thing. The market is changing constantly, and it's a subjective industry. So it's really our job to use our best guidance and on our expertise to help the author. But nothing is for sure. Some things sell quickly, some things do not. And there's not a way to predict that. So that's why you want to find an agent who believes in you and your writing, who will fight for you. And we want to find the authors. Like, I'm feral for my authors. There was one time when my former boss at my other agency said, any authors that you want to pass along to this agent we just promoted? And I was like, nope, they're mine. I will fight you to the death for my authors. That's who you want to find. You want to find your champion.
100%. I absolutely agree with that. You want an agent that loves your manuscript as much as you do. I like to consider, when you're an author, your manuscript is your baby. Well, I'm their grandmother. So I'm going to I want to champion that manuscript as much as you do. So for me, when we go on submission, it really depends upon, again, like Vicky said, where is it in terms of ready? I've had some that literally were ready to go. There was not a thing that I would change about them, and we got them out on submission within the next week to 2 weeks at the very most. And then I have some, I just signed a client a couple of weeks ago. There's nothing overall wrong with her manuscript. There's a couple of things developmental. We thought, we should really look at this and try and fix it. And I could put it out before Christmas, but I don't want to. Because I'm lazy. No, I'm kidding. I'm not lazy. I don't want to, because I know that editors are finishing, if they're like me, they're finishing up their year, and they're tired of looking at manuscripts. And so I don't want to have any reason for them to, if they're sitting on the fence trying to decide if they like it or they, you know, they want to do something with it or they don't. I don't want them saying, oh, it's just easier just to pass and somebody else will take it. So I want to wait until after the first of the year to put it on, just because I think, okay, this is going to, you know, knock somebody's socks off, and I want them to be appropriately knocked off.
Christine, you want to chime in with anything on your submission strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all very similar. I think if I think back of the process I've done with my authors, it's been, I'm very editorial, like with developmental edits. And as I say to them, the more I have to say, that's a good sign, because that means I'm really connecting with it. So usually I do like 2 rounds developmentally, and then we move to line edits. And I am also like very truthful when sometimes the edits just still aren't clicking, and so those are hard conversations to have. But I'm always thinking about my author, obviously, but also like how best are the editors going to receive this too, because I am the one talking to them and hearing what they're looking for, and I'm going to be like, I know this is not going to like go well. So as much as don't write to the market, that's not what I'm saying. It's more I just have my sales hat on while I'm also reading, and that goes into why maybe I might do another round of developmental edits. But yeah, so usually it's a few months. It like Vicky said, it depends on how long like my author needs to revise. It depends on how much I have to read ahead of them as far as the other authors that are in my queue of my clients. And I try and like tell them this is when you can expect it too. So they're not being like, okay, you have it. When am I going to hear from you? So yeah.
I think one of the things that Christine didn't say, and I heard it, maybe I'm interpreting it more, but knowing you, this is what I heard. I heard you say without saying that you try to give your authors what you want as an author from your agent, which is that extra time, which is, you know, not putting it out before it's ready. I mean, that's I'm interpreting for you, but that's what I heard from knowing you for so long.
Yeah. And definitely the making sure it's ready to go and not just putting it out because we want it out. The one thing if I could tell authors one thing recently, it just seems like Jenna, you kind of touched on this with, you know, when completing a manuscript, is there's no reason to rush. And I know this industry takes so long. There's so many parts that are like very slow and out of our control. So if we have control, we want to rush it along. But I have seen stuff that has been rushed, and it doesn't help the author. It doesn't help anything. Rushing is not the answer to anything.
To me, this is also an important question to ask, you know, an agent who's offering to represent you, because just from talking to agents over the past couple years and like being on the inside at this point, not everyone works the same way. And while I agree with everything you all were saying, and it's the same, like it's impossible to predict how long it will take, it depends on how ready the manuscript is, etc. You know, Christine, you do 2 rounds of developmental and line. I do 1 developmental, 1 line. I mean, I could do 2 developmental. Actually, that's not true. I have in a few cases if needed. But I don't remember who it was, and I wouldn't say anyway, but there was an agent who did like an insane number of rounds of edits. And she was talking about this, and I remember being like, wait, how many rounds of edits do you normally do? You do what now? Is that what we're doing? But that's the thing. That's not what we're doing. That's what she's doing. And hopefully that's working great for her authors. And, you know, Christina's going to do 2 rounds of developmental, and she's going to take her time, and someone else might hurry it more. Like, these are important questions to ask if an agent loves
agents don't do any editorial work at all.
Yes. And Cathie, you were saying you're like all about the line edits and not so much on the developmental. And I think these are all, fine ways to approach it. But I think authors need to know we're not all the same. The title is agent, but we have different kind of workflows at times, even though the goal is the same. The goal is to like have great books that we're pitching really well to the right editors. So I think asking those questions of how many rounds do you normally do, how long does it normally take you, like what is your process? That's important because when that conversation doesn't happen, we've all seen it on social media, like authors being like, well, I didn't hear from my agent for 6 months and I don't know what happened to my book. And then it was on submission, but I didn't know it, or this or that or the other. I think communication during that editorial phase of what they can expect from the agent, what the agent's normal process is, and how long it will take is vital. And if you go in and have a good understanding of how that's all going to work and then it flows that way, it's much less stressful, But if you go in and you're like, I expect to be on submission next week, and you sign with Christine and she wants to do multiple rounds to make your book better, maybe that would feel frustrating. But if you go in knowing, oh, she's committed actually to making my book the absolute best it can be, and to not rushing because she's seen how that doesn't work out, I think having just that conversation at before signing with someone, but also once you've signed and are tackling a new project, is vital to have a healthy relationship between author and agent. That was a little off topic, but
No, it leads right into the next question, which is, do you involve your authors in your submission strategy? And do you take into account their personal feelings? If they have certain publishers that they want you to send to, or certain ideas for the pitch, how does that work?
Can I jump in on this one? Because this is the one that I'm really passionate about. Yeah, I just gotta, because of course I can't close my mouth. No, because I was an author first, I really always try to look at it from the perspective of the author. So let me first say that not every agent does things the way that I do, and there's nothing wrong with doing it completely different than what I do. But the way that I do it is, number one, I always have a conversation with my clients. We are partners. We are equal partners. One of us is not above the other one, and they always need to be able to speak freely, always. That's how we keep open lines of communication open, and that's how we prevent having misunderstandings. So I want to know from my clients. I even have a Google Doc that I call their action plan, and I ask them, and they have access to it at any time, and I ask them, on your action plan, if there's anybody specific you want to go to, let me know. We'll do our very best to send it there. If there's any place you don't want to go, let me know that. We'll do that too. They also have, I have an Airtable, which is like a Excel spreadsheet on steroids, which tells me, I put everything in there, which, who is the publisher, what is the imprint, who is the editor, when did I send out the initial contact, when did I send out the full manuscript, and any updates along the way. I'm the only one who can edit that, but they have full access to it to see it at any time. So they know exactly where their manuscripts are always. All they have to do is go out there and take a look. I do that because, again, we're a partnership. This isn't me being in control of everything. I don't feel micromanaged when my clients come back to me and say, have we thought about this particular place? And I'm not going to lie, I have a couple of clients who, when they've written a new manuscript, they've given me an entire submission list.
That was me as an author with my agent. Yeah.
And the first time they do this, they're making apologies, and I'm like, don't apologize. If this is where you want to go, let's take a look at it. And I will go back and I'll take a look at where they want to go and who the editors are. And I'll just make sure that those are good choices. Maybe they want, Susie Smith at ABC Publishing, but Susie Smith is not the best person for this. And I'll come back to them and say, okay, I know you want Susie Smith, but Julie Jones over here is really a better fit, I think. Or Susie Smith is like the black hole where where submissions go to die.
There are a few of those in the industry.
There's a few of those in the industry. So I'm like, we can send it to Susie Smith, but we'll probably never ever hear from her again. So I do give feedback like that. But we, at least as much as they want to contribute, they're able to contribute. And I have clients who don't care. They're like, just let me know. Whatever. And I have to reach out to them sometimes because I don't hear from them. It's like, are you alive? So, but
I'm the same, Cathie. I know we know each other the least of like the four agents, but I'm seeing eye to eye with you.
I'm already thinking you're going to be part of this besties circle here.
I accept.
We're all in the Chicago area, so you got to come to us.
Yes, we are. We are. It's same. So I don't do Airtable, but I do like a Google Doc spreadsheet thingy, and it's exact same. They have access. I edit it, but they can view it, and everything goes in there. When does it go out to what editor? Did they confirm receipt? What did they say? You know, what day did they get back with, you know, a rejection or an offer or an R&R? And, you know, of course, if it's an R&R or an offer, they'll also hear from me like via text immediately. But I believe in full transparency. It's what you're saying. It's a partnership. It is. I don't want any toxic power imbalances because there are enough of those in this world. The Lord knows. I don't want that with me and my authors. I want them to know where their book is at all times, to have a voice if they want to have it, or if they just want me to take care of it. That's what I'm here to do. So I love everything you said. I'm like, yes, go.
Yeah,
Vicky,
I do a lot of the same things, and I tell my authors that I always tell them that, you know, I want them to be 100% honest with me, because I want to be 100% honest with them. Now, that obviously doesn't mean you know, that like things get rude or anything like that, but you know, if they send me a new manuscript and it's not ready, I'm going to tell them it's not ready, but I give them what they need to get it ready. Or if they send an email and I am not ready to even look at it yet, I'll send them an email and say, just confirming that this is received, but I've got a lot going on. I will get back to you likely in the next week or two, or whatever it is. And I tell them the same thing. I'm like, I might send you an email at an odd hour. I do not expect an immediate response. You know, please like preserve your own boundaries and have them with me. And let's have these conversations as needed. I have quite a few authors that give me, I just had one like 2 weeks ago give me, I think like 11 editors that she wanted things sent to. And the funny thing was there was only one that I didn't have on the list. Like she literally lined up with it. And so I told her exactly that. But I also told her, I don't mind when you send those things because to me, that's confirmation that we're on the same page of what you want for your manuscript, where you want it sent, what you don't. And then if there is a discrepancy or something, because our rules on the agenting side. So maybe I already have somebody else's, one of my other clients' manuscripts with an editor. I'll tell my client that, you know, this person, you know, will go in a second round or whatever it may be. And then, you know, I've had text me when they look at their table thing like, hey, I noticed this person disappeared from my Airtable. Why is that? Oh, well, they left the company. So now I need to find somebody new to send it to. I encourage questions because you know, I'm an author myself. I'm represented myself, and I know how important it is to know where your stuff's at and what's going on. This industry is hard enough without extra guesswork.
And two, with that, I would recommend as an author, as you're thinking about what you want in an agent, is to be thinking about what is important to you for an agent. Because I know for a fact, and I've spoken to many of them, several of them anyway, that are completely polar opposite. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you are a person that you don't need that constant reaffirmation, you don't need that input, you don't need to have, you know, feeling like you have control, then maybe what you really want is not an agent like one of us. Maybe you want an agent that just takes care of it and you don't have to worry about it until you get that call that says you have a deal. And that's okay too. But if you need an agent like what we're talking about, then you want to be very sure that that's what you get, because you know. So I'm sorry, Christine, it's your turn.
I don't really have much to add because I think I've had similar experiences of putting together a sub list, and I send it and like, this is what I'm planning on. And my authors will say, I really wanted this person, or, you know, what about this person? And we'll have the conversation. Many times I'm like, well, I had a meeting with them and I spoke directly about your book. So that's why they're on the list and they want to see it. So that plays into it. A lot of times the authors don't know what we're doing behind the scenes. But yeah, as far as communicating too, I ask when we go on sub, I'm like, what is your preference of communication? Do you want to know right when you get a pass, or all my authors so far have said weekly, they want updates. So every Monday morning, I send them their updates. But that's also just specific to what my authors want. If someone told me they wanted something different, I would do it for what fits for what they want.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's just me. And that is not, I think the big part of this industry is realizing, there can be totally capable people out there that are doing the best that they're doing it, author-wise, agenting. And even if you're doing the best you can, it's still not the best match. And that's okay. There are other options out there, and there's a lot of power in saying no to an agent that you're like, oh, I don't think we're going to be a good fit. And I think authors, I know it's so hard because like agents, the ratio is so hard to get an agent, but also at the same time, if you're not working well together as an author, you can really languish, and that's not going to be beneficial. And for an agent, they don't want to feel like they're doing something wrong when they're not. And so if you get a vibe that you're like, this is just not working for me, that it's okay to say no.
Mm-hmm. Well, and two, I changed, as my client list grew, and my workload changed, I changed how I did things.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why that transparency and those lines of communication are so important, because I used to email every single author whenever I received a pass. And then very quickly, I didn't have time for that anymore. But that doesn't mean I leave authors in the dark. It just means, okay, well, what can I change? What can I do to adapt how I communicate? And so making sure you're on the same page with your agent, or that you are comfortable having those conversations with your agent, and your agent's comfortable having those conversations with you, that's what will make sure that you work well together long term. But absolutely, sometimes there's just a mismatch. I signed an author a couple months ago who, her agent was lovely. She's like, I have no criticism. Our communication styles were just completely different. And so it was frustrating for both of us. And, neither one was wrong, but if it's not a match, it's not a match. And so both parties were much happier parting. So
I can't think of anything more demoralizing than needing an agent like what we do, the personal, if you need that kind of an agent and you're not getting it, I can't think of anything more demoralizing. So make sure that if you don't need us, this kind of an agent, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's a lot of great agents out there that just have so many clients that they just can't. I'm not in any way dissing what they do, because I think that everybody has I'm an extreme extrovert, and it's just who I am. And that's why I do things the way that I do things. And then there are others that are just very, very focused and that's fine too. But if you need a specific type of agent, I think it would be very demoralizing to say yes to an agent that's not going to give you what you need. And as an author, as a writer, sometimes you need that reinforcement. Some people need that reinforcement. Not saying I'm going to hold everybody's hand. I'm not going to hold your hand, Vicky. But I mean, just make sure you know what you need. And if you don't need one like us, that's okay. There's nothing, or if you do, that's okay too.
I think it's also hard to know what different agents' personalities are going to be until you get an offer and you're talking to them. So I would always say, like, definitely throw spaghetti at the wall and query super widely. And if you're lucky, you'll get a choice. Not everyone gets a choice. Sometimes you don't get an offer, or you only get one offer. And maybe you are willing to put up with slight mismatch, but your book is moving forward and it's okay. Like, it won't always be a perfect marriage. But yeah, I would say query super widely. And if you end up getting multiple offers, that's when you'll have like the lucky position of being able to be like, actually, that personality is a better fit for me than that one.
And don't make a decision. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay, Cathie. I know we could all sit and talk for much longer, but we are at time for the presentation. So with that, I want to tell all of our viewers out there that all of the contact information, where to query these 4 lovely agents, it will be located in the information at Writer's Workout. So please, if they feel like they'd be a good fit for your novel, make sure you follow what their recommendations are for how to query them. That's important. Don't email them if it says use query tracker, so or query manager. So okay, thank you all so much, ladies. I'm going to stop recording, but you don't have to hang up. So, but bye.
Thank you, Shelby.
Okay, thank you.
Bye,
Thank
thank
you.
you.